This is the Shaw Hudson House in Plainfield, Massachusetts. It is the best and rarest kind of house museum, a time capsule with layers of family history, archives, and collections, all intact. And what a fascinating family. Located at the center of the historic district, what makes Plainfield and this house special is that so much of what was there when this map was made about 1870 is still there. You can walk the streets and get the sense of a place and time as vividly as anywhere in New England. A short walk beyond is Hilltop Cemetery, where most of the personalities we'll meet are buried, including Dr. Shaw and Sarah Bryant, who died at age 22 after the birth of their first child. Also shown here is the stone marking the grave of her father, Dr. Peter Bryant, from neighboring Cummington. Dr. Shaw apprenticed to Dr. Bryant and became a partner in his medical practice and then married his daughter. It was a small, tight-knit, intimate web of families back then. Most of the early families in Plainfield and Cummington migrated west together from the South Shore of Boston. This is the Shaw Hudson House. It was built in 1833 in the late Federal style and has two formal front doors. The one on the right leads directly into the doctor's office. Here is the chamber bedroom. Everything in it was bought and placed there by the Shaw family. It is a time capsule, not another restoration, like an archaeological site with spectacular supporting documentation. Meet Dr. Samuel Shaw. His family moved to Plainfield a few years after his birth in 1790. He died in 1870 at the age of 80 and is buried nearby. He was a man of great influence and education. Meet his granddaughter, Clara Hudson, and her mother, Laura Shaw. Laura and her siblings grew up in the house. Clara used it as a summer home before donating it after her passing in 1963. A town map from the 1870s shows the house belonging to the Mrs. Shaw, Laura's unmarried sisters Stella and Sarah, who lived out their days here. Dr. Shaw's daughter Laura attended the Rutgers Female Institute in New York, where she met and married Erasmus Darwin Hudson, Jr., a doctor who was educated at Columbia University. The Hudsons summered in Plainfield, and some of their possessions found their way home. Here we see Laura and the children at the house about 1880. Their city-raised children enjoyed Tom Sawyer-like summers in the country, bonding with their agrarian Hilltown heritage. The doctor's granddaughter, Clara Hudson, was next. She owned the house with her brother into the 1960s. She attended Barnard College in New York, where she was raised. House museums are also about great stuff. Here, every object tells a story. The desk and bookcase and the writing table on the left were probably made in Northampton about 1795. This isn't Old Deerfield, and the collections aren't uniformly high-end antiques, but boy, is the stuff in untouched condition. These predate the house and were brought here by Dr. Shaw's second wife, Elizabeth Clark, from a prominent Northampton family. A bandbox, plain but typical slat-back chairs, and this fabulous grain-painted chest, all from about 1820. This furniture in the French Empire style was probably made in or near Plainfield and acquired in the 1830s as new furnishings for the Shaw's new house. This remarkable needlework picture with a spread eagle and gold threads clutching an oval picture of George Washington's Mount Vernon was made about 1800 at the famous Patton School in Hartford, Connecticut. One of the most prestigious female academies in western New England, it bears the initials of Elizabeth Shaw's older sister, Anne Laura Clark, who has recently attracted substantial scholarly attention as an artist and one of the first female lecturers in the United States. Then there are the books. Here is John Harris's lavishly illustrated two-volume 1764 edition of Voyages and Travels. Harris was an English writer, scientist, and priest. This is a rare treasure that speaks to the family's world outlook and educational values. Here again is Dr. Samuel Shaw. The crown jewel and the main, but by no means only reason why the Shaw Hudson House is a national treasure is this. Dr. Shaw was born in 1790. He trained under Dr. Peter Bryant and for almost 40 years operated a medical practice out of this house. He married Bryant's daughter and inherited his practice and many of his books when Bryant died just as Shaw was launching his practice. The Shaw Hudson House is a full bay and a half wider than your typical country mansion of this period, with the door on the right opening directly into the medical office. Here it is, the doctor's office, furnishings, tables, books, stove, and apothecary cabinet, small, compact, and astonishingly early and intact. By the time Shaw's son Francis left to serve as a naval surgeon, Dr. Shaw was retired. For 150 years since, this office, filled with the effects of the practice Shaw began in Plainfield about 1820, plus many items that belonged to Dr. Bryant as early as 1790. Since then, the room has been frozen in amber. If you stumbled across Santa's Workshop or the intact Cavern Club in Liverpool where the Beatles perfected their sound, it couldn't be more exciting. None of the items in this room are perfectly unique. Yale and Harvard medical schools have many more early books, but nowhere in the United States is so much so early, intact, and in an original setting like this. If you want to see what a country doctor's workspace was like at the beginning of scientific medicine in America, you have to visit Plainfield and you have to see this house, because it is simply the best thing of its type in the country. What we are witnessing here is the first glimmerings of modern science, clinical analysis, book knowledge, the origins of modern pharmacology, and the emergence of medicine as a real profession, buttressed by the new schools of medical learning and the equally new medical societies in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and beyond. Shaw was involved in all of it, among the first generation of licensed doctors, and because his children were the only family raised here and they preserved things, it is still intact and there is nothing that rivals it. The key thing is the books. Books were to doctors what hand tools were to blacksmiths and cabinet makers. This is also the origin of information-based professions. Books contained knowledge, and knowledge produced competence and power. Here we see rare first editions of the famous New England Journal of Medicine, including Volume 1. Here is a book by Dr. William Cullen, one of the most important professors at the Edinburgh Medical School during its heydays, the leading center of medical education in the English-speaking world. A rare 1792 edition printed in Hartford and bought hot off the presses. 2 years later, Bryant named his first son after the author, a son who went on to become one of the most famous men in America. Other books include William Buchan's Domestic Medicine, first published in Edinburgh in 1771, and John Hunter's Treatise on the Blood, Inflammation, and Gunshot Wounds from 1796, the first book to analyze the treatment of gunshot wounds. Both were owned and signed by Peter Bryant. This library reveals that Peter Bryant was intellectually engrossed in the Edinburgh axis, the cutting edge of science and medicine as it was emerging from the ether of superstition, alchemy, secrecy, and guesswork. It would be hard to overstate the degree to which our lives have been enriched by the movement this represents. The collection also includes voluminous manuscripts and records pertaining to Dr. Shaw's practice, including daybooks, receipts, and business records. The apothecary cabinet contains hundreds of bottles, beakers, boxes, and jars of medicines and organic and inorganic compounds, including arsenic, copper, and opium. Mortar and pestle, beakers, funnels, early chemistry glassware, it's all here. The Shaw Hudson House archives document the development of medical education. Dr. Shaw attended classes at Williams College and was elected to the Massachusetts Medical Society in 1819. At age 32, Dr. Shaw became one of the founding instructors at Berkshire Medical Institution, founded in Pittsfield in 1822, and affiliated with Williams College. The school trained almost 2,000 doctors, more than Harvard or Yale, before it closed in 1867. Scientific medicine and clinical analysis were all about transcending the quackery and superstition that characterized the medical business for centuries prior. Although no portrait of Dr. Shaw exists prior to the 1850s, these are images of his New England contemporaries and peers, portraits of doctors and doctoring from 1790 to 1830, just as the profession emerged. The good news is that there is more to learn, see, and do in Plainfield and the Highlands area than Shaw Hudson. Indeed, there is more to the house than just the Shaw Hudson family. From the outset, the Plainfield Historical Society preserved and presented local collections in a couple rooms in the house reserved for that purpose. Like most community-based historical societies, they have some great and unique stuff. On the left, a Gothic-style iron clock that belonged to a local family, and on the right, a surveyor's transit and compass used to lay out the town's roads before 1790, a rare and unique artifact from the early history of civil engineering. The Historical Society has photographs and ephemera like this broadside from the cattle show of the Mountain Farmers Club in 1861. History and the ambience of an unspoiled rural New England hill town is the essence of Plainfield's charm. In addition to a National Register Historic District and a nationally significant historic house, the Historical Society recently bought and preserved the Plainfield Mill Brook Mill sites. This is the best first-period water-powered mill site we've ever seen in New England, and is that ever a story? So where is Plainfield? It's in the Highlands region of western Massachusetts, the hill towns between the Connecticut River Valley and the Berkshires. There's a lot here, and if any part of New England still epitomizes New England before so much was blanketed in asphalt and strip malls, this is it. The Highland Community Initiative of the Trustees of Reservations underscores the importance of the natural and cultural resources of this region. There are no large towns in the region, but there are many great places, places that matter. Close to Shelburne Falls, Williamstown, Pittsfield, and Deerfield, Shaw Hudson is just 6 miles from the National Historic Landmark William Cullen Bryant Homestead, operated by the Trustees of Reservations. Plainfield is also known for agriculture and farming. The local foods movement and neighboring Conway's Festival of the Hills all celebrate locally grown. Okay, so here's what we have. An impeccably documented house in an impeccably documented town where more of the material culture and built environment from the early national period survives intact than ever occurs. The point is this: to know what Hilltown life was like during the formative years of our nation, this is the place to experience it. It's not one of hundreds of places. It is one of the very best from among 1,000 or more, and that's on top of the unique place Shaw Hudson has in reporting the story of the origins of medicine and scientific method in America. The Shaw Hudson House is a time capsule within a time capsule, and it is without doubt a treasure of national significance. What does it need to be sure it's here for the next generation and the generation after that? A larger endowment and a desire and willingness to develop its potential as a museum experience. Qualifying it as a National Historic Landmark will be challenging but warranted, and it will attract support. The qualities that make places like Plainfield special are so easily lost. We can't save everything, but I'm sure we can and must save this. To learn more and get involved, join Friends of Shaw Hudson on Facebook or contact Judith Williams by email. Thank you.